U.S. debt levels are climbing, and global interest rates remain elevated. If you look at your portfolio and feel dread, you aren't alone. The macroeconomic pressure is visible across every global market. In India, that pressure has stalled corporate growth. For the last 18 to 24 months, earnings per share across major sectors have effectively flatlined. Revenue growth is stagnant, and corporate profit margins are struggling to find momentum. This stagnation creates a psychological trap. Retail investors see 2 years of zero returns, assume the growth story is over, and sell. They stop their monthly SIPs exactly when valuations are being squeezed to their lowest points. This chart plots the timeline of structural reforms, like production-linked incentive schemes and national digitization, against corporate earnings. These policies operate on a lag. As these reforms hit critical mass and interest rates soften, data suggests a sharp upward earnings inflection point in 2026. Leaving the market today means enduring the last 2 years of stagnation, only to walk away months before these structural changes finally reflect in your portfolio's value. When volatility increases, investors often retreat to broad market index funds like the Nifty 50, seeking the perceived safety of India's largest companies. However, the Nifty 50 is heavily weighted toward the past, anchored by mature sectors like legacy banks and IT. Their hypergrowth phase is over, placing a mathematical ceiling on the index, likely capping future returns at a steady 12 to 15% annualized. For many, 12% is sufficient, but for the retail investor seeking the multipliers required to build significant wealth, the index alone lacks the velocity to hit those targets over the next decade. Reaching that higher tier of performance requires moving away from legacy profit pools and identifying the specific structural megatrends that are currently expanding. The first of these shifts is the massive expansion of power generation and the infrastructure required to support artificial intelligence. This is driven by global physics. Every AI data center and every electric vehicle added to the road requires a significant and immediate increase in total electrical output. India is responding with a total overhaul of the energy backbone. This means major capital is being deployed into nuclear power facilities, national grid upgrades, and the manufacturing of high-voltage electrical transformers. This also forces a parallel reliance on renewable energy. We are seeing a rapid scaling of solar farms to meet these industrial power requirements while managing the long-term carbon footprint. But consider the trade-off. These are capital-intensive, cyclical industries. Buying during a period of overvaluation can leave your capital trapped for years as you wait for the next major government spending cycle. The second megatrend is consumption premiumization. India is seeing a demographic surge in dual-income households with fewer children. This creates a unique pocket of high disposable income. This capital doesn't flow into basic survival needs. It bypasses raw staples like bulk groceries or basic construction materials. Instead, families are aggressively upgrading their lifestyles. We see this in the record demand for luxury accessories, high-end electronics, and premium home interiors. This wealth is also being used to buy back time. Convenience-based services, such as routine food delivery, are replacing traditional domestic labor in urban centers, creating a massive new recurring revenue pool. The risk here is sensitivity to the macro environment. Discretionary spending is the first line item families cut during an inflationary spike or a period of job uncertainty. The final growth vector is the evolution of healthcare and next-generation pharmaceuticals.
Internationally, a wave of U.S. drug patents will expire over the next 7 years. Simultaneously, AI is lowering the cost of drug discovery, allowing Indian manufacturers to compete for global market share more efficiently than ever before. Domestically, the rise of lifestyle-related illnesses and a surge in medical tourism are funding the expansion of specialized multi-specialty hospital chains across the country. However, evaluating these companies requires deep technical expertise. You must accurately model FDA approval timelines and the clinical success rates of complex drug pipelines. While demographics provide a multi-decade growth vector for the healthcare sector, the risk of selecting a single company that fails a clinical trial remains exceptionally high. This chart maps these 3 megatrends by their complexity to evaluate against their potential for high growth. All 3 sit in the high-effort, high-impact zone. This leads to the execution trap. Retail investors see the potential for alpha and buy individual small-cap stocks in these sectors without the institutional research necessary to understand the underlying risks. The historical data is sobering. During market corrections, individual small-cap stocks frequently suffer drawdowns of 70% or more, often taking years to recover, if they recover at all. Think of mutual funds as the necessary public transport vehicles for this journey. They provide the institutional shielding and professional management required to navigate this volatility safely. By using specialized mid-cap or flexi-cap funds, you are paying a small management fee to avoid the catastrophic errors that typically wipe out retail portfolios in these complex sectors. Much of modern financial media encourages investors to chase short-term speculative returns of 200% or more. This mindset leads to constant portfolio churn. Investors jump between hot themes, incurring taxes and transaction costs that erode their capital and guarantee long-term underperformance. Real wealth relies on the longevity mandate, holding an asset for 20 years to let the mechanical reality of compounding take effect. This chart shows the wealth generated by a steady 12 to 15% return held for 2 decades. The most significant growth occurs after year 15. Most investors never see this because they sell during a temporary dip in year 3 or 4. Time in the market is the only reliable way to neutralize short-term volatility and reach financial independence. This decision framework helps you structure your portfolio for the 2026 inflection point based on your personal capability and available time. If you are a time-poor investor, surrender control. Allocate your capital to high-quality flexi-cap funds and allow professional managers to handle the sector rotation into these new profit pools for you. If you are an optimizer with the time for deep study, restrict your direct thematic bets to a small satellite portfolio. Keep the vast majority of your wealth in stable core holdings to ensure your long-term security. When choosing these satellite bets, look for second-order effects. For example, instead of guessing which company will lead in solar power, look for the established companies manufacturing the specialized glass or transformers that the entire sector requires. Use current market anxiety and temporary price dips as a phase for accumulation. You are acquiring your position before the structural payoff of 2026 begins to show in the official earnings data. The growth story is in motion, and the profit pools are shifting. The most expensive mistake an investor can make is selling their position right before the macroeconomic trend accelerates.